of Ekarladehan Izoduwa, Imadoduwa, or Oduduwa. He was an Edo prince who went far southwest to a town or village with his followers from Benin. Edo prince name was Ekarladehan Izoduwa or Imadoduwa. He created kingship monarchy in the town and also called it Ilefe. He reigned over this land until further migrant people and workers came from Dahomey. Imadoduwa was a magician. He was with the mind of making his kingship great, his kingdom great and wealthy. He embarked on developing more areas in his kingdom and expanding his territory. Ekarladehan Izoduwa was what was later corrupted by Yoruba as Oduduwa. Some scholars say Yoruba migrants from Dahomey to Oyo and Ilefe were the Ewe tribe of Togo, while others say they were from Fon. Third part of Dahomey were also part and parcel of Mali, Berbers. They were called Yoruba in Ekarladehan kingdom then. The migrant population was huge. Scholars argue Yoruba are Malians. Mali most likely comes from Malenke Mandinga, which was also spelled Mali in most ancient maps. Some say Yoruba originate from the tribe of ancient Ewe that settled in West Africa in Dahomey, Ghana, and finally Old Oyo. The migrants arriving in Ilefe mixed up and intermarried with the people. There is probability that they spoke corrupt Benin mix migrants and settlers language that could have given birth to some Yoruba dialects spoken today. After many years, when the Imazoduwa died, another succession, probably one of his sons, continues the reign of the kingdom of Ilefe. By this time, the kingdom have already expanded to some other parts known as Yoruba land of today. Yoruba were not Benin, and Benin not Yoruba, but mixed in Ilefe that later expand territory to other parts of today. Yoruba land, Ilefe, is a Benin name and town by a Benin prince to the southwest of Nigeria. The Yoruba call it the same as Ile-Ife. Only the tonation varies. Both the Benin and Yoruba agree Ile-Ife or Ile-Ife was ruled and organized by a Benin prince. The monarchy system was created by a Benin prince Izoduwa, Imadoduwa, or Oduduwa. The reason some of many Yorubas today feel Yoruba not the aborigine and source of their monarchy institution are political, ego, and the corrupt British education and administration. Let's not also forget that slave trade had a terrible impact on the old kingdom of Ekarladehan in Yoruba land. Oyo was seriously devastated and reduces during the slave trade. The headquarter of Yoruba kingdom was in Ilefe or Ile-Ife. The settlement by migrants from Togo that settled in Oyo was wiped off by 18th century by slave trade. As recorded in modern history, the Alafis dynasty in Oyo began around 12th century. Oramiyan was in Igodo in 11th-17th century. Ekarladehan Izoduwa, Oduduwa, was alive during his son's sojourn in Igodo and also when the Oyo dynasty came into being. Yoruba historians confirm that 30 Onis reigned in Ife before Akimoyero in 17th-18th century, and that 13 more have reigned since. This enables us to prove the 12,000th century date mathematically. If from 18th century to 2004 century, for example, a period of 204 years produced 13 Onis, and the average, how many Onis could have reigned from 12,000 century to 18,000 century? A period of 600 years. The answer is 38 Onis. The word Yoruba has its roots in Yariba, which the Fulani used to call the Oyo people. This was a later word used to identify the people of Oyo by the Hausa Fulanis during the slave trade in the 16th century. The word Yariba was first recorded in reference to the Oyo people, wholly in a treatise written by the 16th century Songhai scholar Ahmed Baba. It was popularized by Hausa usage and ethnography written in Arabic and Ajami during the 19th century, in origin referring to the Oyo exclusively. The extension of the term Yoruba to all speakers of dialects related to the language of the Oyo in modern terminology, Northwest Yoruba, dates to the second half of the 19th century. It is due to the influence of Samuel Ajayi Crowther, the first Anglican bishop in Nigeria. Crowther was himself a Yoruba and compiled the first Yoruba dictionary, as well as introducing a standard for Yoruba orthography. It's like classifying all of northern Nigeria as Hausa. The presence of Yoruba influence in most places today claimed as Yoruba land can be traced back to the propaganda nature of Crowther in the 19th century. The second migration of Yoruba people southward from Oyo and Ife. The Yoruba second migration happened in the 16th to 18th century during the slave raiding for British slave merchants. There may have been some few migrants during the economic boom during Benin Kingdom trading with the Portuguese. Oyo recorded the highest slave raiding in the history of Nigeria, and most of them were shipped to South America. At the time of European economic boom in Benin Kingdom, many migrants from Interland were coming to seek for new opportunities and jobs near the coast, that when the only known Yoruba people began to migrate to work in Benin Kingdom and in the coast in the 18th century to the 19th century, the British, who hated the monopoly and sovereignty of Benin, planned to bring her down using her surrounding like the Yoruba from the inside northwest Oyo to finish their plan and conspiracy in the region. Here is when that Yoruba presence of today began their trajectory and occupation on many lands and territories earlier held by Benin with the consolidation of Britain during the colonial administration. Do you believe Oduduwa is the ancestral father of the Yoruba people? Many Yoruba scholars claim Oduduwa fell from the sky to Yoruba land. Where actually did he land? Any sign? Others says he came from the east. Okay. Did he meet people in the so-called Yoruba land? If yes, then how can Oduduwa now be their ancestral father? Do Yoruba have any historic monuments like the pyramid structures in in Old Benin and Great Benin? Most similar monuments in Zimbabwe, Timbuktu in Mali. Any sign of an empire in the region as claimed to Oyo, not talking about clay, molded or primitive bronze artifacts. Many claim dating back to 10 BC, or the two structures in Oyo, Ile, the Alafi Palace and its village market, nor either the slave raiding westward, eastward, or northward story. I mean, physical structures that tell of an ancient civilization. When and where was Yoruba presence first felt in West African history? Why no reflection of Yoruba in many ancient maps of West Africa? 4. Was the Yoruba territory in British pre-Nigeria creation, say, 16th to 19th century, same with 1914 and again in 1960 to 1967. What expanded it and why? Were there aborigines in those territories, say Owo, Kwara, Ondo, and Lagos before their presence during the British colonial period? If there were aborigines there, who were they? Did Yoruba Oyo had a national flag and a centralized hereditary monarchy like the Benin before Britain in Nigeria? Why couldn't they? What was Yoruba boundary with Dahomey before the creation of Nigeria versus Togo boundary? Anything in common with Togo? For how long was that and why? If Yoruba clan, the Awori as claimed was a kingdom or aborigine of Lagos before Britain, why weren't they forced to trade with European or Portuguese in the region? Why did the first Europeans to the region not name the ocean Bight of Awori, but the Bight of Benin? After all, the Europeans themselves were not only interested on trade, slaves, and commodities as they careless who they meet. Isn't true the word Yoruba is a Hausa Fulani word used to identify people of Oyo? Basically, the real Yoruba settlers who migrated from Togo or Dahomey to their present location in Oyo. Anything to do with African tradition or Islam? If true, slave trade swept off Oyo, the only known Yoruba land at the time, and an invasion of Islam. Where did they get their further population from? And the African traditional religion like the Olokun, Ogun, Oromila, etc. Do Yoruba have one language and one ancestral city like Benin to all Edo people and dialects? If no, then why? In 1974, an approval was granted Dahomey by Oba Akenzua II of the Benin Kingdom to change the name of the country to Republic of Benin. Why did it Republic of Benin? Togo, go to Yoruba land, being that they are closer and they were really was an Oyo empire. That stretches to Togo as Yoruba historians claim. Does that also reveal or shows that Benin Empire stretched beyond the entire Yoruba land to Dahomey at all time? Who was the first king, Oni of Ife, and what year or time of reign? And who was the first king of Oyo, and what year or time of reign? At what time any of the kings bear Oba as a title? Before the Portuguese came to Nigeria, the administrative rulership of Benin Kingdom was already organized and structured as a sovereign nation, country, kingdom with no comparison in the sub-region.